Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd. And today's episode is an unexpected one as I make one last recap in my 2026 regional recap series with the Bethlehem Regional from this past weekend. Lots to talk about with this one, plus big news going into Dayton. So sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. Hi there, everyone. We are back for a special episode to cover the Bethlehem Regional after you all bullied me and begged me to do it. So, since I love you all, here I am. I will be quite honest, I am tired. I'm exhausted. I leave for vacation on Saturday because it's my birthday week and taking the family on a cruise for spring break. So, yeah, I have to get this done and get this out. And yeah, but you all begged and begged and begged. So many people were like, please, please, are you going to do one? Are you going to do one? And I felt bad saying no over and over again. So here we are. This one is going to be a little different this time around as I wasn't originally planning on doing this. So my normal methods were not in place for this. Usually I watch during the weekend as I can. And then I use the rebroadcast on Monday to really solidify everything, get my outline put together, song titles and artists, and make sure I have the flow of all the shows. That's what I do on Monday. Then I usually record, then I edit it Tuesday night for posting. Since I didn't know I was going to do this, none of that's in place. So I'm going completely off memory for this one. So please keep that in mind. I watched 22 hours of color guard during the Bethlehem Regional because I was at the school for 13 hours on Saturday and then 9 hours on Sunday. So I watched a lot of color guard. Most of these color guards we'd already seen either at Philly or Corning, or both in some cases. So we'll touch on them briefly, try to focus on the groups that we haven't seen. But remember, I don't have a ton of notes on everybody. I was really just there enjoying the pageantry. I got to meet a bunch of people. And I want to give a shout out to Tammy Wilson, who's been a longtime friend. We've been chatting for a very long time. Her daughter Sophia went to Kiski and is now on AMP. And it was so great to finally meet her. And I met probably two of the best parents ever. One of the Fusions performers' parents. The mom's name was Michelle, but I didn't get the dad's name. But they were absolutely lovely people, and it was really funny. I just kept running into them all weekend. I sat near them and we chatted for the first block, and then it was break time. I went wherever, and then I just turned around the corner, and there they were again. So we were constantly bumping into each other all weekend. They were just so sweet. In other news, the Dayton schedules are out. Now, by the time this comes out, this will be dead news to everybody. Everybody who's already known this. Unfortunately, the 6 independent open waitlisted groups did not get in. We tried, y'all. We fought, and unfortunately, WGI just didn't make it happen. I don't want to cause another flame war as I did the first time. People got very passionate about that topic, and I had archived my posts because of people's quote unquote passion that turned into hate messages and death threats and wishes of cancer on my children and all sorts of crazy crap. And especially the Facebook people. Deleted, blocked, reported, all that stuff. But yeah. So if you're wondering why I pulled all my posts down about the whole waitlist situation, that was why. It was getting to be too much. People were starting to attack each other in the comments, and then they started attacking me. And it's not what I signed up for. I wanted to voice my support and just my opinion on how I thought that whole situation was unfair. And most people were supportive and thankful and, on my side, but there was a vocal minority. But let's not dwell on that. To those 6 groups, please send them some love. Remember, they are hurting right now. Everyone else is super excited. They get to go to Dayton. They're looking at their performance time and they're figuring out their practice space and they're planning all this stuff. And these guards don't get to do that. So just send them a little extra love. Show them the support that they deserve, and hopefully next year things will be better. Remember, the rules proposals go live about 3 weeks or so after Dayton, and if you're unhappy with the rules or policies, any of them, this is your chance to make a rule change to have it get voted on in June. So we had the independent open age limit get changed, right? We had a senior guard rule almost get passed. I think that's going to come back again this year because I think they're going to tweak what they suggested, and I think that's going to pass this year. So anything. You want to change time limits. You want to change round structures. You want to address this whole wait list thing. That's your chance to do it. And all you have to do is be affiliated with a WGI program. If you went to a regional, you can submit a rule change. And then it'll go to the proposals meeting. Then it has to be seconded at the meeting in order to get to the whole like conversation and voting on the next part of it. But yeah, keep an eye. I will be very vocal about that when it comes around. So keep an eye on Instagram and Facebook. So if you or somebody from your team wants to make a proposal, you'll be able to. The predictions contest is now live. So the link is on my Instagram bio and it's also on my Facebook page. It's in the pinned post at the top of the page. So if you want to make your predictions and enter for a chance to win some fun prizes, now's the time to do it. The contest runs through April 7th. That's right before Dayton. And just so you know, I am out all next week. So the week of most schools' spring break, that week going into Easter, I am gone. No contact at all. So if you have questions or anything, I will get to them when I get back, but everything should be pretty straightforward. Some other weekend notes: we have Paramount, Fusion, and Fantasia are all super close in the score. They all broke 94 this weekend. SAC is right behind Fantasia, and it looks like it's going to be a very exciting fight for a medal in Independent World again. Arcadia out in California broke a 95 and looks absolutely amazing. They are my pick to win Scholastic World. I think their concept and the execution of the concept is the best in the sport across all classes, period. Like it's the most interesting, the most well thought out, and the most well implemented onto the floor. And they were pretty darn clean in Palm Desert, and they still have 2 more weeks to polish. Like this could be very interesting what they look like at Dayton, because they looked very good at Palm Desert. And then we did have a reclassification. We had Wiley High School get moved up to Scholastic Open after they won the Mansfield Regional. Just a quick recap for how the reclassification process works. WGI will review the top 2 A guards and the top open guard at every regional. So independent and scholastic, top 2 A and the top open guard. They can review others, but those are the ones that are automatically reviewed. It goes to 3 people: the education coordinator, the director of color guard, and the chief judge. And if they say, yep, they need to move up, then it goes to the steering committee and there's 5 people on the steering committee. If 3 of those 5 people agree that you need to move up, then you move up. That's the basis of how it works. And that process can take up to 10 days, which is why we just found out that Wiley got bumped after the final regional. Remember that the Mansfield regional was the weekend before this one. That was the 14th and 15th. So wish them the best of luck as they head into Dayton, because they are going to be in a brand new class and they're going to get one run in open class with their circuit championships. Okie dokie, let's get into the color guards at Bethlehem. So, like I said, this is all coming out of my memory. I don't have notes on these. I've tried to type up what I can remember, and then I got to the point where I'm just going to wing this one. It's a special episode, so if it sounds a little more disorganized than usual, that's why. I've got to rush. I mean, I got to pack for vacation and all this kind of stuff, so I need to get this done. So, here we are. We had 16 units in finals, and I believe we'd already seen like 12 of them across the other 2 regionals. So I'm just going to pick out the ones we hadn't seen that were kind of up there. 7th place was Southington High School with their show. I believe it's called Paris 2024. They're doing a show to basically kind of about the Paris Olympics. They're using the song Celine Dion sang at the opening ceremonies, and it was in my head all weekend. They are immensely talented. And I really thought this one should have been higher. I was shocked at this one. That was because it was an 8th in prelims, which kind of made sense because the sound table started the music when the kids were nowhere near ready. Like, I mean, you had like kids walking all over the floor, 2 flags in hand, and the music started, and the kids started looking around like, WTF, like, what's going on? Why did they start the music? We're clearly not set. So they recovered, had a much better. They actually had a pretty good run in prelims despite that, because I know some guards that would have rattled them and they would have fallen apart. They didn't, but they didn't have their best run. But then they came back in finals and had an amazing run and moved up a spot. I mean, I still think it should have been higher. And, looking at the recap, you had the DA, you had 2 DA judges. Remember, finals, they get a double panel. One of them had them in 9th, the other had them in 3rd. And then equipment, one of them had them in 8th and the other had them in 4th. And it's just like, what are we looking at, people? Like, why are we so all over the place? It's a great show, great group. Definitely keep an eye out for them. This should make finals at Dayton. I know Scholastic A is a bloodbath, but I would put them in finals. 6th place was Dartmouth High School, and they moved down from Scholastic Open this year, so they're back in Scholastic A. And they were doing some sort of architect show. I didn't get the name of it. And they're in like a blue business style uniform with blue pinstripe pants, and then they have a blueprint style floor, and then they had doors in frames on the floor they could kind of wheel around. One for every performer, I'd say like 12 or so. And I just remember they spun really, really well and they had some brightly colored silks. And yeah, I was like, oh, this is nice. I like this. And that's really all I remember of it. Sorry. Fifth place, we had Salem High School with their show Shoe, not shoe as in feet, but shoe as in like getaway. And this whole show was a bumblebee attacking like a picnic or a backyard cookout. It was really, really cute. They're in 50s style uniforms, like the 50s style dress, and the guys are in like sweater vests and like a little tie. And then the music was like variations of Flight of the Bumblebee. And then like in the midsection, they pull out a bug spray flag, and there's like a shh kind of noise, like they're trying to spray the bugs away. It was a very fun concept, and it was very cute, and it stood out. This is why I remember a lot about it. And then they had a big house prop in the backside one corner with a door. And then at the end of the show, they all run into the house to get away from the bee. I mean, they pulled out like a giant fly swatter at one point, and it's just like I said, very cute, very fun. This will probably make finals as well. Let's move up to third place, which was Liverpool High School, and I believe their show's called Rooted. And they had like a brown, bronzy floor with black roots all over it, and they were in uniforms kind of the same, like kind of like a brownie bronze sequin and stuff like that. And two things that stuck out with me about this show. One, the pre-show does not match the show. I'm nitpicking. The pre-show is amazing. They use a nice upbeat kind of modern pop song. You're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're getting into it, and then the music is more down. And that's always been kind of one of my nitpicks. Is if you're gonna don't hype me up to then bring me down, or vice versa. Just have your pre-show match the show. But like I said, it doesn't affect their score. Doesn't affect anything. It's just you're hyping me up, hyping me up, hyping me up, and then the music's down. This guard is very, very talented. But I just remember I even posted it on Instagram. The hands on these weapons, my God, this weapon line was crushing it on Sunday. Like, yes. And they have like a featured dancer. She's amazing. And the guard's like 10, 11 kids, maybe. It might even be 9. But it doesn't look like there's 9. Like there's so many smaller guards that are just doing so well. They're just great staging, and it's just yeah, like this is a sleeper guard to watch. And I know they're like 7th in the rankings, but I mean like if you're planning your top 5s and all that, this is a sleeper guard for that. Like this is one to watch out because yeah, they're that good. And they were being compared against probably the top of the class with John C. Bertelbaugh at this regional. So like this is a true number and this is where they stand. And I believe they're in the same circuit. So I think they see each other all the time. I think it's them. I think it's Liverpool, Victor, and John C. Bertelbaugh that see each other all the time. I mean, talk about like that's crazy. Like to have those 3 like top tier Scholastic A guards all in the same circuit, seeing each other every weekend. It's like Indianapolis where the world guards are seeing each other all the time. But I'm rambling. This show is great. They have like they use like black flags. I think they're like black lame because they have a sheer to them, like a sheen to them. And I just remember watching. It's like this is really, really good. This is excellent. And the weapons, my God. So Liverpool, keep it up, kids. You're looking great. And spoiler alert, I have you in my top 5 for Dayton. So that episode's going to come out later. But spoiler alert, everybody gets a sneak peek. Liverpool's in my top 5. We'd already seen second and first with Elizabeth High School and John C. Bertelbaugh. And fourth place was Unionville, who we'd already seen as well. We saw Unionville twice, Bertelbaugh twice. We've seen Elizabeth once. Elizabeth could be pushing for fan favorite. Just they get the crowd very involved. They have these fans. Remember when Blessed Sack pulled out the pink fans last year and they were snapping and cracking them? Elizabeth does the same thing, and it's amazing. And it's a Spanish tango show, Argentinian tango, whatever you want to call it. It's tango based, and yeah. The crowd was really into Elizabeth High School at Bethlehem. So we'll see what happens. Let's move over to Independent A. There were 9 in finals. We're going to talk about the top 3 because we've seen pretty much everybody below that, I believe. Looking at the scores, nope, Sacred Heart was in 6th. So they're doing a nurses show. Apparently they had a big hole that they had to close like Friday night. And I thought this was great. And once again, Just kinda like last year with their show, I was like, "This is great." And then the judges just it's not resonating with the judges for some reason, I don't know. It's a very great show about being a nurse and coming from a family of nurses. Both my parents were nurses. My husband's mom is a nurse. His sister is a nurse. Like, it's just we have a lot of nurses within my family, so it was a little more, special to me. So I loved it, Sacred Heart. 3rd place was Liz Eclipse, and they're doing the Twilight Zone, and they had a black floor with a white spiral on it, but it was like squared out. It wasn't like swirly, like a circle, and they're in red and black uniforms. And I remember at some point, like there's like a bass beat in it that the crowd started getting into and clapping, and they have the Twilight Zone theme song, and they're do 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 do, and they have like a spiral hypnotizing flag, and they have some cool weapon stuff. Like that's kind of all I remember. Great job, Lazy Clips. They're going to Dayton, so we'll see. I think they're in the like 10th in the rankings or something. So keep an eye on them. 2nd place. Okay. Let's talk about St. Anne's. We're going to bring this down a moment because this is kind of a serious thing to talk about. And I was sitting around some people that were from the St. Anne's or from that area, that Boston, Neponset area. And St. Anne's show is called From Neponset, Massachusetts. I couldn't tell you what the music is because it's just kind of like a somber, soft, like classical piece, like a modern classical piece. But constantly throughout the show, they have announcements. They have the WGI announcements on the floor from Neponset, Massachusetts. Please welcome St. Anne's or St. Anne's from Neponset, Massachusetts. You may now take the floor in competition. Like that, they had all of like you watch the old videos, the DVDs, the VHSs, all of those announcements of their name is just layered and layered and layered within this show. 7 performers in the guard. They are amazing. And when they finished, I would say a good 10 to 15 people around me were all crying. And just for some context, it's just kind of what from my conversations with people. So they lost their longtime founder. I believe it's their founder, but their director, the cornerstone of the whole organization, Eileen, passed away, might have been late last year. And this show was kind of dedicated to her. And St. Anne's as an organization has kind of been on its downward trend, and it's been harder and harder to keep the organization going. And I think with Eileen passing, that was just the final nail in the coffin. And talking to some people, this performance, finals at Bethlehem, was more than likely the final WGI performance for St. Anne's as an organization. When I heard that going into finals, it broke my heart because I don't, especially for my younger listeners, St. Anne's was a staple and a cornerstone of this activity for so many years, and a top tier world guard. I mean, they had a world and an open. At one point, they had a world, an open, an A, and a cadet. I mean, just a huge organization. And they were like the backbone of the whole Boston area conglomerate that would just take over WGI that has now dwindled away to practically nothing. Like all that's left is Blessed Sacrament. You had groups like Emerald Marquis, St. John's of Beverly, and St. Anne's used to be a huge one, Sacred Heart. I mean, there were all of these huge programs that are just now gone because the Sacred Heart that's out now is no longer affiliated with the university. So it was heartbreaking. And knowing that this was the final runs of St. Anne's and that it was dedicated to Eileen, it was so moving and just so touching, and a lot of teary eyes around me because the people who knew the severity of what was happening, it really got to them. But the performers were great. They were in tears by the end of the show. And I'm not old, I'm turning 44 on Sunday, but I was raised on older color guard in my color guard, life. I had mentioned it before that when I went to high school, I kind of became obsessed. I was one of those kids that became obsessed with it. And after I graduated, I started teaching with my director, and we would have sewing parties, and we would sew our own flags or whatever. And he would always put on his old VHS tapes, and we'd watch all these old shows, and I just fell in love with all this old color guard that would be ancient considered today, like all the stuff from the 80s and early 90s. So St. Anne's has been a huge part of my color guard passion and history. So to know that they're no longer going to be around is really, really sad. And people were sad about Pride, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Pride, that big organization." St. Anne's, is just on another level, and just kind of like the importance and the just being the cornerstone and the backbone of a whole region really for our activity. Now Pride went out on a high. They won and they're like, "Sorry, we're done." St. Anne's unfortunately has kind of, dwindled down. Definitely worth looking into the history of St. Anne's, and hopefully I can get somebody on to talk about it because it is such a long storied program, and much love to St. Anne's. Thank you for everything that you have done for this activity. This one hurts. This one breaks my heart. But let's talk about this show real quick. Like I said, 7 performers. They all spin rifle, then they all spin saber, then they all spin flag. As a true Boston guard, the weapons are absolutely insane. The hands on the weapons are absolutely insane. I mean, and they all spin it wonderfully and beautifully. And yeah, it's well staged. It's a shame they can't take this to Dayton for one final year, but we know how expensive everything is, and when you only have 7 performers and you have to spread that cost across 7 people, that's near impossible. So yeah, St. Anne's, I love you, and we will not forget you. Let's move on to first place in Independent A with Sonar out of Quebec, Canada. And this one I can talk about quite a bit. I do know quite a bit about this one. If you're interested in learning more about this program, I did do a program showcase episode on them. It's episode 25. You should definitely go check it out. Michael, their director, has been involved with Sonar since I believe 1988. Now, he hasn't been the director that long, but he's been with the program since then. And so much great information, so interesting to hear how they work because Canada's just so different. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check that out. Let's talk about this show, which is amazing. I think it's probably the best A-class show that's out there right now out of everybody I've seen, but, looking at the scores and kind of they're at the top, they're ranked 3rd right now, and yeah, it just it's called, like, Windmills of the Mind, or so I don't know what the title is, but they're using the song Windmills of the Mind. The opening is an a cappella version sung by Barbara Streisand that's really dragged out, and then about 40 seconds in, we get this fast-paced, like, string piece that you would hear, very common in color guard right now, and then the show just goes from there, and it's so good. The guard is maybe 11 performers, 11 or 13, it's not very many, and they're young. They're very young. I was talking to the director, "Hey, Michael," and he was saying the average age is like 15 for these kids, and they're just absolutely incredible. They have this maturity and this sophistication to them and to the show, and they finished in finals, and there are people sitting around me and go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I can see why that's in first place." Like, multiple people said that, or, "Oh, yeah, they deserve first place." So, it is an excellent show. They're kinda developing a signature with this double saber work that is, like, true double saber work. They're spinning both sabers, and all of a sudden, they whip this blade quad out of nowhere. The opening soloist is amazing. She does this cool, like, horizontal, and then she pops it up again for another horizontal, like, without even, like, catching it. She tosses and then pops it up again. It's really, and every time the crowd was like, "Ooh," every time she did it. Both prelims and finals, they're like, "Ooh." It's so well done, and it just and to me, it stands out amongst the sea of other A-class color guards. Like, they don't look like anybody else, which is huge in A-class. Like, if you can stand out in A-class, make sure the judges remember you. This one is great. I know Michael does not wanna hear this right now, but I think this is gonna medal. I'm pretty sure this is gonna medal, unless they just throw up all over the floor, which, they might do if they don't wanna go to open. But remember, it's A class. So if you don't wanna go to open, you need to be at least 6th place because they move the top 5 up. So just putting that out there. But no, Sonar, this is amazing. I got to meet the kids. They're all super sweet. And yeah, this if you wanna catch a great, probably one of the best A guards out there and the best A shows in a while, this one. It's just excellent. Excellent. So, Sonar, I'm rooting for you. I love you. Je t'aime. Scholastic Open, there were 4 units. We'd already seen Arlington and Cicero North Syracuse. I will say for both of them, they are getting better. They're cleaning up. Cicero North Syracuse handled a sound issue like pros. It was not their fault. I don't know what was going on at the sound table, but all of a sudden during a couple shows, these loud bursts of like static were coming through the speakers, like, like I'm not going to do it really loud, but it was like that, but really loud and like sustained. Like, I want to say for like Cicero North Syracuse, it was probably like 4 or 5 counts of their show. It was like, but loud. Right? I'm not gonna scream in your ear, but it was loud. And you could see the kids on the floor jump, and the crowd jumped when it happened, and they started screaming counts, and they got back into it. So, yes, claps, snaps, all that. Great job. And this happened to a couple other color guards too. They actually paused the show. I believe Nuance was getting ready to go on, and they're sitting there like, "Can we pull our floor? Like, why can't we pull our floor?" They weren't letting them go because they were trying to figure out the speakers because it was so bad during the group that went on before them, and that might have been prelims when that happened. Bethel High School is doing a show called Madness, and I remember they had lots of orange. I remember that orange, and they had striped uniforms, lots of orange. I was like, I love this because there's orange everywhere, and they had stools, and they're doing all these weapon tricks, and they had orange everywhere. And yes, Bethel, I loved it. And what's funny is they started using the song Madness by Muse. It's not the whole show, but it's a good chunk of it. And I remember talking with one of my local friends. I was like, this would be a fun song to do for a color guard show. And here I am sitting, God, probably 10 years later, and they use it. I'm like, oh. And then Roslyn High School, I don't remember much about them. I remember they had a big door, a white door in the backside two corner, and then a big ramp that led to it. And I think they were also kind of like in yellowy and orange, and that's all I really remember of it. I remember they had some really cool body moments that would happen, like they were running, but like in a beat, like they weren't consistently running. It was like a slow-mo kind of thing, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's the deal on Scholastic Open. Independent Open, we had a couple groups that we hadn't seen before. So we had JMU Nuance that was in fifth, and they're doing Escaping the Spiral or Escape the Spiral. And so last year they did the whiskey show, right? Everybody remembers them. So this year it's pole dancing. So that's their trick this year, we'll call it. They have a pole dancing pole that sits on side one of the floor. And I have a nitpick about this, and it's not the guard, it's the crowd. So they have multiple performers get up on the pole. And they have one female performer who gets up there and does a lot. I think she's like a legit pole dancer. So they're like, "Hey, you want to join our color guard and we'll feature you?" But then I'm just going to use boys and girls for this. So other girls get up on the pole and do other cool tricks. And at the end of the show, a boy gets up and does the trick, and the crowd loses its damn mind. But when the girls are doing tricks, nobody cared. Like, come on, y'all. Like, cheer for everybody. Go back to episode 3, pet peeves. One of my biggest pet peeves, people only cheering for the boys. No, cheer for everybody. But this is nothing on Nuance. This is on the crowds. I'm calling the crowd out on this, all right? Clap for everybody. But they have the pole on side one, and then they have these curved, think of like a ballet bar, but curved, and it's raised, and it's raised in the air like just on a pole that sits on a metal platform. So, okay. Let me try to describe this. Think of like those plastic scooters you would ride around in elementary PE, right? Now stick like a 10-foot or a 12-foot, a 15-foot or a 20-foot pole right in the dead center sticking up. At the top of that pole is a curved piece of ballet bar. All right, that's how I'm going to describe these props. And when you line them up, the curves all kind of connect and make like a big, like of a spiral, but they're 4 separate props. So they have those on side 2, and they move them around throughout the show, and they're in blue, maybe purple, and some sequin costumes, and some have like, they're just the variants on the legs. Like some will be full legs, some will be one pant, one short, somebody's in both shorts, and all this stuff. And they constantly use the pole, and they have somebody up on the pole, and it's all about like escaping the spiral in a brain because they have the hands kind of shaking by their head all the time. Yeah, and I remember there was lots of weapon in the show. Yeah, that's what I remember. But the big thing that stuck out with me was all these girls getting up and doing all these really cool tricks on the pole, and people were like, and then a boy gets up and does a trick, and they're like, oh my God, he's amazing, oh my God, ah! And they're like losing their mind. I'm like, really? Really? Just because it's a boy? Clap everybody. Okay. George Mason University was 4th. We talked about them before, how they're kind of a slow burn color guard or like a marathon color guard. They have added a live singer that takes over the soundtrack at the end of the show, which is really cool. And then the crowd really got into it. And he is quite good. So they're keep an eye on him for them. Gates Chile Independent was 3rd. All these guards were super tight, like super tight score wise. So a different day, they could be in a different order. Gates Chile is cleaning up. They took out that Highway to Hell section in the middle, and that opening dancer is still absolutely insane. Like 3 fouettes into like a quadruple pirouette or something like that. Yeah, yeah, and just like the girl from Sonar, every time prelims finals, they were like, "Ooh, yes!" And lots of cheers for that. The fire flag is very cool. They do an all rifle section. I don't know if any of that changes from the last time I saw it. I'm just kind of going off my memory, but I remember I was like, "Oh, they do all rifle now," and they could have done it before, and I just didn't remember it. They're cleaning up and getting a lot better. Second place was Mainline Independent, and they have made some changes to their production and some really cool changes. So when I saw them last, all their lamp posts had a white light in them, or like a soft yellow. Right now, it's a blue light and it makes a huge difference in the gym. Like the yellow lights were fine, but these blue lights, I mean, like I'm like, whoa, like it has a big change on the effect. So I like that. And they start with all of these lamp posts. They're not actually lamp posts, but that's what they look like. They all start with the lamp posts at like 6 feet tall. And somehow, I mainline, if you're listening, let me know how you do this. They like raise throughout the show to different heights. So, like, are you doing that remotely? Are they programmed to do that? Because I didn't see anybody cranking them, but then like the back one inside two gets to be like 10, 12 feet tall. And then the one on side one's like 9 feet tall, but they're all variant. It's really cool. And they do these cool tricks, all the plastics and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I like it a lot. Our winner in Independent Open was Blessed Sacrament with their show Grow As We Go. And this is their open team. I think there's like 28 or something like that on the open team. I was talking with Cece and Matt, who are on staff there. They were amazing, amazing people. I was a little bit starstruck when I saw Cece. Cece's been in SAC for, God, 45 years at this point. No, no, I'm kidding. Just a very long time, but very, very friendly, just very approachable. We chatted for a long time after prelims was done. Just lovely people. They're using the world floor from last year, that beautiful orange floor with a little bit of blue and stuff in it. And the guard is in like pajamas, and they're like silk pajamas of like jewel tones, like a ruby and an emerald and a sapphire color, just kind of mixed and matched. And they use the song "Grow as We Go." I didn't recognize it, but they said the show title, and then you hear the song keep saying "Grow as we go, grow as we go." So I'm assuming the title of the song is also "Grow as We Go." Funny little story. I was sitting in the stands, and then Matt and Cece came up, and they saw my shirt, and Matt was like, "Oh, yeah, you're the podcast guy. You're the guy who said we weren't gonna make finals last year." He was like, "You said you said we weren't gonna make finals last year." And I was like, "Yeah. Yeah, I did." And he was like, "But you know what?" He's like, "We heard that, and it lit a fire under the kids, and they were like, 'You know what? We're gonna make finals now.'" And they did. And even if you go back to the Dayton recaps of Independent Open, I even admitted, I said, "Look, I'm gonna own up to this. I said this, and you proved me wrong." So we had a good laugh about that. Their weapon hands are incredible. It's a huge the guard looks bigger than it is. And when they said it's only like 28, I'm like, "Really? It looks a lot bigger than that." And they have two flag features in their show. Yes, you get two flag features. They're beautiful. You get one with like a nice like turquoise or a sky blue flag, and then you get a nice bright pink one at the end. I really like this one. And looking at some of the performers, it could just be visual things, but some of them look really young. And I'm like, wow, you guys are amazing if you're this young, if you're as young as you look. But I really liked this one. I don't remember a whole lot about like what happens in the show. I remember there's two flag features. I was all about it, and they had an orange floor. And yes, I know it was world floor last year. And then they make a straight line at some point on the floor. Like those are the things that really stand out to me. Yeah, great team. They should make finals this year. I'm hoping they make finals this year. They're scoring well, so shouldn't be an issue as long as they go to Dayton and do their job. They should be good to go. And yeah, and Blessed Sacrament, please hang on because you're kind of all that's left in the Boston area, and we need you to hang on. And this is their 90th season as an organization. 90 years for Blessed Sac. That is incredible. Scholastic World, we had Shenendehowa show up, and I was so excited about that because you know how I feel about Shenendehowa from the Indie Regional. And the kids heard me call them Shenenda bleepity bleepy Hoa, and apparently they all had a good laugh at it. So I'm like, I hope I didn't start like some horrible tunnel chant, where the kids are in the tunnel chanting that now. But the show is really, really cool. We've talked about it before with the ghost holograms that appear. They've kind of changed them up a little bit, so they've added some more to them. where it feels like they're walking towards you and stuff. It's just it's so cool. I'm hoping they can sneak into finals. It's going to be tough, just because of they're going to be fighting in that group that's trying to get into finals. And if they have a nice clean run, they should be able to do it. But keep fighting, girls. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love the gasp out of the crowd when they appear. So if you're going to Dayton and you get the chance to see Shenendehowa, make sure you can see the front of the floor. You need to see the front of the floor because again, at Bethlehem, the people in the back are like, "What's going on? Why is everybody going?" Yeah, it's amazing. I love you guys. Let's jump to Independent World. Fifth place, we had Light Brigade. So much fun. This is a guard celebrating their 50th year. There's a lot of milestones this year. Light Brigade is celebrating their 50th year, and they're just a blast on the floor. They are hanging on in world class, and this is not a read at all, I promise. But they're generally, I would consider them more of a senior guard than a world guard, just by looking at the age of some of their members, and simply because you look at like Fusion, you look at Paramount, you look at Fantasia. All those performers are essentially like 25, right? Within that bubble, probably that 22 to 28 range, right? Light Brigade has people in their 40s and probably in their 50s spinning out there doing this stuff. So, and keeping up in world class. So, I mean, props, snaps, all of that. Miss Janelle, Nelly is still going. I think this is her 30th season with Light Brigade, which is amazing. She was marching. She was captain when I marched Apex 23 years ago at this point, or 22 years ago at this point. And I remember being lined up for retreat, and they were always the life, the life of the party in that line. And I'm like, wow, you are still going. That is so incredible. So the show is a ton of fun. They use a lot of stuff from their previous years. They're just celebrating themselves. It's their 50th year. So much fun. So much fun. Fourth place was Third Legend out of Canada. Good friends of the pod. Hey, y'all. It was so nice to see them again and reconnect with them. I only get to do that about once a year, but I look forward to it. And their show is Turning Point. We talked about it on the Philly recap. And so the Philly Regional was like their first like real show. I mean, they'd done some local stuff, but they hadn't gotten out, like, they had just, like, finished the production, like, the week before, and so now they've had some time under their belt, and, they were able to come back out and do the full show now that they've had it under their, belt for a few weeks, and they had a rough going prelims, but finals was much better, and, they're pushing for semis, talking to the staff. I mean, it's independent world is tough, so tough. It is what's expected out of these performers as they transition from open to world. And with Third Legend being so limited being in Canada, they don't have the talent pool to pull from that other guards do because color guard isn't a thing in high school in Canada. So you don't get all these high school kids are like, oh, when I graduate, I'm going to go march there. I mean, they get a couple from some New York guards and stuff like that, but they can't pull like that in Canada. And that's true across all of the organizations. That's why there is no age limit. That's why these groups tend to be a little smaller outside of Third Legend, who's, they're world guards. They can pull in more, but like you look at Sonar, Pacific Cares, Ventures, they tend to be smaller and younger just because of that's just kind of how it works up there. If you're an American and you want to march there, you can. You want to go march Sonar, you can, as long as you're within the age limits of the class. Americans have to abide by the age limits within the class. The Canadians don't. So if you want to march Sonar, who's an independent A, you need to be under 22. If you want to march, there is no independent open guard right now, but you'd have to be under 25. And then World, obviously, there is no age limit for Americans. They have a very high energy show, very fast. It looks exhausting. They have beautiful orange and yellow flags that they spin. They have these really cool tube props that they spin, and one performer climbs it, and she's sitting at the top of the pole, and then they knock the pole over, and she comes down to the floor gracefully. And yeah, they're doing weapon tricks and all sorts of stuff, and it's just very, very fast. And yeah, I like it. I do like it. They're really trying to embrace being in world class, and I know that jump is super difficult. So, je t'aime, Third Legend. And if you want to learn more about Third Legend, I also did a program showcase episode with them, and that is episode 19. So make sure to check that out too, so you can learn a lot about Third Legend. And here's some funny stories of me and Carolyn talking about our time marching at Kiwanis Cavaliers. Third place, we had the Black Watch, who are celebrating their 60th year in existence. And this guard, I think I mentioned it in the Philly regional recap. If I didn't, this guard is kind of making a resurgence, making a comeback. They'd kind of fallen down a little bit in the world standings, and I think they kind of had a little changeover in staff and kind of a regroup and how we want to move forward. So they are trending back up and moving in the right direction. They are doing great. I love the show. It's beautiful. It's called Crowded Mirror, and you get that in the show. I mean, they crowd a mirror. They act like props that have mirrors, and they have mirrored features on the floor, and they're using the song "The Greatest Bastard," and they have their show silks, and yeah, I like it a lot. I'm so happy to see the Black Watch getting better and better and moving back up in independent world. Looking forward to see what they do next year. I'm hoping they can get into semis this year. Finals is going to be tough just because, oof, I mean, the guards that are going to miss finals are going to be absolutely insane, like levels of color guard, because there's 33 independent world guards in prelims, I believe. 15 make finals, and if we know Fusion, Paramount, Blessed Sack, Fantasia, all the way down to like Vox RDM, they have like the top 9 locked up. Amp, Tampa Independent, all these guards. So it's like these guards that are on the bubble, there's so many of them fighting for these like 5 spots in finals. Blackwatch, keep doing what you're doing. It's good to see you making a comeback and getting back up in the rankings. I love you. Mwah. Second place, we have Amp Winter Guard with their Spanish show. I forget the name. It's 3 words, and I'm blanking on them at the moment. They still have all the big skirts. They had an issue in prelims as well with the music starting before they were even ready, and that was just because they couldn't get their props in through the doors, and yeah, that was chaotic. And I noticed in finals they they got those props through the doors as quickly as possible. They're like, "We're not having this happen again." It's a fun show. It's not their usual fun. Like, it's not Joker level or Alice in Wonderland or disco level of fun. But the skirts are incredible, so effective. There's so many people on the floor that you get a full flag ensemble from them. The entire I think there's one performer that does not spin a flag, and the rest of the color guard is on flag. So 49 people, because I'm sure they have 50, 49 people all spinning a flag, and they've changed the flag feature around. I'm not gonna say they listened to me because I know they didn't, let's be real. But I did mention in my feedback, I wish the flag feature they had earlier there was more unison stuff before they went to like the chaos and the ripples, and they did that. So they probably got that feedback from the judges as well. It's looking great. It'll make finals. The crowd's gonna eat it up. And yeah, it's Amp. Not as fun as they usually are, but it's still very fun. And then our first place group was Fusion Winter Guard. We've talked about them before as well. And I know they're a big talk of just the color guard community in general because it's just so simple and breathtaking. I know their show's not easy and it's not simple, but it looks simple. It looks effortless. Maybe that's a better word for it. Effortless and pristine. And I was completely wrong on all their flag designs, which is kind of funny. But they made this post on Instagram talking about, just the inspiration of the design and where they got the colors and the designs on the flag. And like the first flag is designed from like almost like subway architecture, like you'd see the arches under there. And then like the second flag is kind of inspired by like Empire State Building architecture with like all the squares on the outside. And then they did add a new ending. New ending is gorgeous. It's breathtaking. They caught me in prelims. I was like, instead of them ending the show with the performer, typewriting, sitting there, they get back up, they pick up their jackets, and in the beginning, they take them off, right? And they hang them up on the pole on the coat rack, and they do this like backwards lunge, right? With these like arms that they pull back. And so they repeat that at the end, but when they go to hang up the jacket, they purposely miss the hook and drop the jacket on the floor. And it's so simple, but it's so effective. Just like a simple thing of just dropping a jacket, and it's so effective. Prelims, I was watching like a specific performer who just caught my eye, and I thought she dropped it, and then I realized everybody dropped it. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." But for a second, I was like, "Uh-oh." I don't know how this is gonna do at Dayton. I just with them and Paramount, I think Fantasia's gonna be right behind them, but I think Fusion and Paramount are gonna be duking it out for the gold, and I don't know who's gonna take it. I don't know who's gonna take it. I they're just they're, like, so polar opposite, and then Fusion is using Appalachian Spring, and it's just like a staple in marching band and color guard, and it's just so beautifully done, and it doesn't look overworked, and it's yeah, there's just I what do you say? I mean, It's that good where it's just like, what do you say about it? Because it's not overdone. It's not overly, I don't want to say complicated because I know it's complicated. You watch it, you're like, this is really crazy. All this staging and weaving and all the choreography and everything, and all of it is complicated. It just doesn't look it. It looks effortless. Yeah. I don't know. Mm. If you ask me right now, I would say my head says Paramount's going to win. My heart wants Fusion to win, if that makes sense. I know. Let's cause more controversy and just give them a tie. Give them both the gold. Let's just cap this season with more controversy. Just have a tie for the gold at the end. All right. I know this was a weird episode. I apologize if it came off kind of clunky. I really just tried to go through my thoughts and what I remember. I'm sure I missed something. To the wonderful people I met at Bethlehem, it was so nice to meet all of you. Andrea, Michelle, Cece, Matt. I met Tammy, and I met Joni, and I met Steven, and there's so many people. And then to see all my friends that were there as well. Great, great time. I am going on vacation. I will be back the week of Dayton. I have episodes already kind of locked and loaded, so they're going to release, but I won't be here for them. Dayton Predictions is up. The merch store is up if you want to get your Clap for the Flags merch. And then if you can also order it after you don't win the predictions contest. 'Cause I know people are probably waiting because they want to see if they win something first, which I totally get. Best of luck to everybody at their circuit championships. If you're on spring break, enjoy your spring break. Enjoy the last few weeks of the season. Remember going into Dayton to breathe, have the time of your life. You're going to have so much fun. And remember, your result there does not define your season. So if you get pre-eliminated, it's okay. If you don't make finals, it's okay. If you don't medal, it's okay. That one moment does not define your season. So Dayton Predictions episode will be coming out soon. I'm actually recording that tonight with some friends because like I said, I'm on vacation, so I got to record it early. Thankfully, the schedules are out. So we have that to go off of. Check out Band Scores. Shout out to Band Scores, who's been doing amazing things. We've connected and we've been chatting. So check out Band Scores for all that information. And yeah, have the time of your life. I love you all. I will catch you all next time. So until then, stay safe, stay fabulous, and remember, at the end of the day, it's just flags in a gym.